everybody, and welcome to the Playerspectives Podcast, where we invite fellow streamers to talk about their personal video game and streaming history, which we have dubbed their Playerspective. I am one of your hosts, the girl who's got it memorized, Alicia from Ultramelon.
And I'm the boy who is not Clayton. Not Clayton. Matt from Ultramelon.
And here to tell you that video games are good, the cozy, the charming Naetoid. Nate, hello. How are you doing?
I am doing good. I'm ready. I'm excited. I've been waiting for this. I remember when the podcast first started, I was like, am I going to get an invite? and sure enough, it came down the line. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
We are so excited to have you. So we keep tying. So on the Playerspectives podcast, we always start with a role play question. And lately, I guess the questions have been good. I don't know. We keep tying. So the options were, you're trapped in a dungeon. What video game character do you want to be trapped with you? And you're a superhero. Which video game character do you want to be your sidekick? You voted.
I did.
You were going to be the tiebreaker. What did you vote for?
I voted for the dungeon one because I felt like superhero. I was like, I could just pick another superhero, and that feels like cheating.
All right, so we are going to go with trapped in a dungeon. So you are trapped in a dungeon. I'm going to do that again because I just hit the desk. You are trapped in a dungeon. What video game character do you want to be trapped with you?
So while I was picking, I was thinking this over. And there's a lot of variables. Do you want the person that's gonna help you get out, or do you want charisma? Do you want to just have a good time while you're trapped in the dungeon? But I think ultimately, you gotta pick Solid Snake. You gotta have the guy who's gonna be able to assess the situation. He is gonna be charming and goofy too. Like he people don't realize he's a goofy little guy, really, at the core of it. But he's gonna help you sneak through. He's gonna help you. He's really gonna get you through. Honestly, I think that's the safest bet for me. And he's probably not used to being in a dungeon either. That'll be interesting for him. He's more used to prison, actual prison. But yeah, Solid Snake. I think he's will be able to eat things off.
God.
He'll be able to just hunt the rats and things in there and cook them up for me.
Or just wall meat.
Wall meat. He'll take care of me. You know what I mean? I think he seems like a little cold-hearted, grumpy man, but he'll take care of his friends. And so if he's there to help me, I think I'll be okay.
Nice. I love that choice. I love it.
And I think the other thing is when you're first person crawling through the vents with Snake, you're going to have a good view. You're going to have a good view.
I'm going to have a great view.
So, I actually know Solid Snake because there's a story about it. I didn't play video games. My older brother did. That was one of the few video games that I saw him play, and I thought it was really funny, the tasty kind of thing.
Exactly.
It was pretty good.
Oh, really? Thank you. It's in there. It's in the deep recesses of my mind. So you and Solid Snake are trapped in this dungeon. Did you commit the crime or whatever you did to end up in the dungeon together?
I think he's saving me. I was the one. Yeah, I did something, or I got kidnapped, and he was sent in to extract me. Of course, things go wrong. We end up both trapped, and then it's the classic thing of we're calling the guards over, hoping they have diarrhea, which is a thing that happens in Metal Gear Solid. That's I think I don't know what I did necessarily. Maybe I just decided to, I was trying to put a stop to the console wars by being positive about games, saying, you know what, all video games are good.
The console wars.
And someone like a deputy from the Xbox army or whatever, kidnapped me, and Snake was coming in to extract me. And he said, I really like the Switch. And then they put him in jail too. and then it was all over.
Oh, okay, great. I love the console wars. That's amazing, and I think that should be a video game or a book or movie or something. So, Snake and you are in this dungeon, and the guard comes over, has diarrhea, as you said. And the guard is like, oh my god, I gotta go, right? And then Snake, like, sneakily grabs the keys, you know, in the classic dungeon prisoner guard situation, sneakily grabs the keys to the dungeon cell, unlocks the door, gate, whatever is there, and you two are sneaking out, right? And there is a vent, a hole in the wall. You're crawling through it, crawling, and suddenly an army of rats comes toward you in this vent.
Oh no.
And Snake reaches for a rat and passes it back to you, and he's like, all right, Nate, you know what you gotta do.
Oh no.
So you're holding this rat, and it's squirming, and there are so many rats in front of you, and what are you gonna do?
So, one, I gotta say a few things. One, I love that this is like a D&D session. Like, we're just doing like a little with choose your own adventure. Anyways, love that. Two, this has so much actual trauma for me and Fern, our last apartment got like invaded by rats.
Oh, no.
And we didn't know what to, they were like everywhere. And so like this is a reality.
Oh no!
Bring back flashback. Literally after we moved from that place for like a month, any little shadow in the corner of my eye that like I was like, a rat came with us.
Right.
A rat came with us.
Seriously.
We had that with roaches.
Yes.
Oh god. It is
So can completely relate. Any crumb on the floor, I can't look at seeds the same way anymore.
any little like that you don't realize how frightening it is when you can hear a noise inside your wall. Like anyways.
Good way to
So
start.
I'm sitting back here. Snake hands me a rat. And they're crawling all over me. Yeah, I'm just having a nervous breakdown, I think. And I say, Snake, Snake, you need to carry me out of. I'm just gonna shut down now because I cannot handle this. I'm sorry. You're a strong man. You'll get us out of here. But I just shut down. There's no. Yeah. Truly, it's almost perfect that you chose that very situation to occur. Yeah, lived that experience for a while.
Colonel, I'm stuck in a vent with Nate, and Nate's having a nervous breakdown covered in rats. What do I do?
You know my cigarette, Snake. It'll calm down.
Perfect.
Okay, that is great advice. So Snake reaches behind and grabs the rat, does stuff with the rats, okay, and trades you a cigarette, okay. And let's just say you're pro smoking. I don't know how you feel about it, but you're like, smoking this cigarette. Snake has taken care of the rats. We're not going to ask any questions. The rats are gone. Okay, you're a little bit calm, and Snake ends up kind of dragging you out because it's a tunnel, so manages to drag you out. You have dropped the cigarette though, okay, onto Snake's shoe or pants. All right.
Shoe or pants.
Shoe or pants. I realize
Let's
shoes
go with
aren't
pants.
Shoes aren't really flammable, so I guess pants makes more sense. So you've dropped the cigarette and you didn't notice, and it's in the fold of his pants, and you get out, and a breeze just flickers, flits. I don't know. A breeze, gentle breeze, just comes along and ignites the cigarette in Snake's pants, and Snake is now on fire. Okay, his pants are on fire. He's jumping around, and out of the corner of your eye, you see all of the guards coming to get you back into the dungeon and capture you. And Snake is now rolling on the floor because stop, drop, and roll, makes sense. The guards are now feet away from you, and Snake is still rolling on the floor, and you are not on fire. So you can run away if you want to, or you can try to help Snake. So what are you doing here?
Okay. So first of all, and this is what the immediate reaction in my brain when I started to hear it. Snake, you've got to take your pants off. Take them off. You got too much to save in there, my guy. I saw it behind you when we were crawling. You must save it. Take your pants off. This is turning into a different kind of story. There's a different kind of fanfic now. And as he takes off his pants, I'm sure he's got, he wears he got the like utility pouches and stuff. I'm grabbing whatever out of the pants to use, probably a grenade, Yeah. And I'm helping my boy get out of there. I'm not leaving Snake behind. He helped me through. We just had a traumatic trauma bonding experience in the cave. I'm not gonna just leave him behind. And you know what? He shares my all video games are good mentality. So I'm not gonna leave him behind. I can't leave the boy.
Can I ask the man? Boxers, briefs, or what's the other option?
Ooh.
Tidy whities.
Commando.
Commando.
Yeah. There you go.
Boxers, briefs, commando.
He's probably got some thermal He's probably got some thermal pants or something. I don't know where we are in the world. I guess it depends where we are in the world because he would prepare for the mission. Maybe he has a skin tight little suit that he wears in the first Metal Gear. I don't know. It's gonna depend on what. I think casually. Honestly, I was joking when I said it, but I think Snake would go commando. I feel like he's just so confident. I think he can get away with that. But no, I think he'd be wearing something appropriate to the mission.
Makes sense. All right, so Snake is now pantsless. Guards are there. You're grabbing grenades, anything you can grab out of these pants. The guards catch up to you, and you have now started running away. Okay? You are sprinting. You're tossing grenades behind you like wildflowers and rose petals on a wedding day. They're just flying, okay? You get to safety, and the guards are gone. You have somehow managed. I don't know what has happened to these poor guards with all these grenades. But you know what? They're evil anyway. They don't believe all video games are good. So you get to safety, and Snake looks at you, and you look at Snake, and everything is okay now. And what are the words that you say to Snake?
This is You've cued me up perfectly here. I look deep into Snake's eyes, and I say, Snake, do you think love can bloom on the battlefield? And it just fades to black.
Oh.
It just fades to black. And you're left to it's open to your interpretation. What happens between these two? Who knows?
Amazing. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Okay. I feel I have an answer to this next question that I'm going to ask you. But I want your thoughts. If this was a video game, what would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, that is I may have to break the VGG scale and make it an 11, honestly.
So good.
I might have to, yeah.
It's so good.
I'd have to, reach out to Fern who helps run the site with me to make sure that's okay. But I think it'd be 11 for sure.
I think it's an incredible video game. I would like to play it. I think you created the perfect ending, honestly, because it's got that intrigue going for it. So thank you.
I honestly would play it. It's if you could have a visual novel, choose your own adventure with Snake, You know,
Oh.
there's many ways we probably could have gone in this dungeon.
Right.
There's so many
Yeah.
endings that could possibly happen. I would definitely play it.
Yeah, I thank you for leading us on this journey.
Oh, of course.
It truly, it went places I did not expect, and but I think, and anytime you put me in a situation with Snake, I think the pants.
The pants are coming off.
It's time to see the true Snake.
Oh,
What a start! What a start!
we are really going places today.
I'm glad to go there with you.
So there's one thing that we've mentioned a couple times, and I think we should talk about this at the top as well as the bottom of the show. We've been talking about that video games are good.
Yeah.
So what is the deal with this phrase of video games are good?
So video games are good is a few things. I'll start with this origin point. It is a genuine thing that I do all the time when I'm playing a game and a cutscene is just hits so well with the music hitting at the right time and the character development dropping beautifully, or, as I said in my initial pitch of the site, I feel drift compatible with the character while I'm, playing with my controller and feeling just right, where I will just sit, and if anyone's nearby, I just mouth agape, turn to them and go, man, video games are good. And it's a thing that I'm so happy that has caught on and become a thing that everyone, I mean, I'm sure everyone's had that experience, right? But I had it, I just genuinely have had that experience a lot in my life. I did it all the time. That when it came time for me to start my own little footprint on the internet, I wanted it to be called that. And so yeah, it's the name of my website that I run. Video games are good, and it is a blog, where I write about all the positives in the games industry. I think the games industry is super, super jaded, both on the side of the development studios because of the gaming community, where, people have such high expectations for video games these days that they just truly, will be so entitled, and, there's all kinds of things that, I believe contribute to the jaded nature of the industry that, sometimes we just need to sit back and just say, you know what, man, video games are good. Let's not get bogged down in all this chaos and silliness. And also it's an attempt to appreciate the artists that make games even more. And I think a lot of people don't realize just how many people, even on the indie level, right, all the way down to the AAA, when there's 500 people working on a game. I don't think people realize just how many people touch these games that we love. And so yeah, video games are good it is our site, it is our thing, but it is also kind of like a mentality, is what I kind of pitch it as. It's a community. It's it's all about just kind of spreading the good word and the good vibes about video games, because at the end of the day, I think we all agree video games are good. It's a simple thing. But yeah, it's a big part of me. It's a big part of my personality. There's a amazing piece of art that I got. You can't see it probably. It's back here. It's Mario. It's a piece of art of Mario, slumped down, dark room, sitting in front of a toilet as he's plumbing. And then the next one is him joyfully jumping in the Mushroom Kingdom on some Goombas, going for a star. And at the bottom it says, "Quit your day job and do what makes you happy." And that's what I did with VGG. It was in the middle of the pandemic. The job that I'd been working at for 5 years had kind of put me in a dark spot for a lot of reasons. I loved that job. It was at a theater where we did plays and musicals and concerts and all this kind of stuff, and I was the marketing person for them. So I was working with all these people to promote their shows, and it was very similar to the games industry, where these people were just so passionate about what they did, and I felt like no one realized just how many people were behind the scenes at these productions. And again, these were all volunteers too, so these were people that were just spending all their free time to do this. And yeah, I was in a dark spot, and you know, I talked to, again, Fern, who I'll bring up a lot of times. Julie is also is their name, their not Twitch name. Um, and I was like, I kind of think I need to do this. And you know, they were like, we can do this, you know, with financially and the stressful things, like we can make this happen. And it was soon after that that I realized I wanted to do VGG, and yeah, through their support, was able to do it, and here we are now. We're like 3 years in now on VGG, and yeah, it's been a great time. It's been a whole new thing to my streaming presence too, because yeah, we'll get into all, you know, more stuff in my streaming history and stuff. But yeah, that's a little probably longer than you expected intro to VGG. But yeah,
It's exactly what I expected. We do send out a questionnaire, and Nate sent back paragraphs to the answers. This is how you know that Nate is a writer, and
Right.
Nate's writing is brilliant and great.
Oh, thank
and
you.
the name of that URL is videogamesgood.com.
that's another sticking point.
So if you're interested in seeing Nate's writing and everybody else who contributes writing, yeah, videogamesgood.com.
Yeah. When you found us, it was through a raid connected by Rinks,
Yes.
who we love, your cousin.
Yes.
And you brought so much of this positivity to the stream, and that's one of my favorite streams that we did. It was a Wind Waker stream, and Matt was playing guitar, and it was the birth of Animal Fact 28, the meme song, and it was so positive and beautiful. And I do feel like you bring that video games are good mentality everywhere you go. What in your life do you think contributed to this positive feeling about video games?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things. Not to get too emotional and too deep, but you know, I went through a lot of really, really hard stuff. If from like senior year of high school through me dropping out of college, so you know, that gives you a sense of what kinds of chaos I kind of went through. And you know, the one constant, the one thing that was always there to like kind of keep me balanced, kind of keep me, you know, the thing that I will still go to when I'm in a depression hole, you know, and just like spend hours. I remember the one that I keep going back to. It's one of the first things I wrote about for VGG is Immortals Phoenix Rising, which was the...
What? You played that game?
I love
Nobody
that
has
game.
played that game. I love that game so much. I had no idea.
There you go. It's a sign.
What?
Because what I wrote about with that game too, especially was, you know, again, angles and things that people don't necessarily like. I wrote about how that game is surprisingly like really warm and wholesome and sweet, as it's the story about like this family that's been kind of broken and you coming together to kind of piece it back together. But yeah, that's a game that I played. You know, again, taking the peaks and valleys here, that's a game that I played, you know, soon after my aunt died of COVID, and I didn't know what else to do, and I just sat and I played and like 100%ed that, you know, like I just kind of sank into it. And it's a game, it's a medium that's always fascinated me. It's a medium that, you know, I've always seen it as the culmination of every, you know, you love music, well, video games have music. You love filmmaking, video games have amazing filmmaking. You love, you know, it's all of it put together into one package that you have your hands on. You know, every time I like remember that, it blows my mind. And that's truly why video games have kind of stuck with me. And then yeah, I think we've all kind of had that path through video gamedom, especially those of us who've been online for a lot of our lives, where, you know, you get into video games, you find the communities, and then you find your little pocket communities are like, we all hate this thing. Everyone hates this thing. And you go, yeah, I hate that thing, you know? And eventually, if you're online a lot long enough, especially in those early days, like the early 2000s or something, you you end up hating all of the video games because you fall into all these little pockets, and you just hate all of it. And so there was a point where I was exhausted with gaming because of that, and there was a point where I wanted to stop playing video games, and I wanted, and eventually it's just like your brain just goes click, like, I love this thing. Why am mad at all of it? Like, and that kind of pushed me to be, as I say, kind of brought on by a YouTuber named Hannah Hart. I like to practice reckless optimism, where you kind of like recklessly decide, no, things are going to be good, things are going to be happy, things are going to be. I think it's partially because I'm a fan of sports teams that have never done anything in their lives, so I have to be recklessly optimistic every season and go, they're going to win. So I think that's where it comes from a little bit. But yeah, all these pieces contribute to, me having this attitude about the industry, and really the key thing I think is every time someone has something like that they like decide to hate about a game, when you really dive into that, when you really like dissect it, it's like, it's silly, like, and especially it's a lot of times it's stuff that it's a series they love, right? But then it's this one sticking point that, like, if you really, really dive into it, it's not that big a deal. Video games are good. This game is good. Like, yeah, I keep finding little paths, but I do want to point out that the whole thing is not to ignore any of the bad things. It's to try to highlight the good things, be aware of the bad things, call them out. Because this industry is pretty messed up too. There's a lot of weird, bad things in the industry that we'll get into on streaming side, on the development side, on, again, the community side, the console wars. That, like, I want to be clear that what we do is not ignore that stuff. We that stuff is still super important to be called out and be pointed attention to, but instead try to shift the overall focus of the industry to not be, a new game comes out. What's the first thing you see on Twitter? Like, look at this stupid thing that I found. Look at this glitch. Oh, did they even work on this game? Instead, let's just go, whoa, this game's sick. Like, whoa, did you see this thing? Like, this cutscene? Oh my god, this character design? Like, that's where we're trying to shove the spotlight towards, and just celebrate gaming.
I think that's amazing. When was you said that it kind of clicked for you, this mentality of, I'm not going to be one of these people who's down on everything and hates games and burnt out on this. When did the click happen?
Yeah, again, kind of funny enough, again, peaks and valleys. I think I was working as a editorial SEO intern for some, like, truly, like, what you can imagine a like tech startup being. Like, they were playing Howard Stern, and the CEO would come in and like shoot like confetti cannons in the office. Like, I was working this job, hated everything, and wasn't sure what was wrong with me. And then I played this game called Depression Quest, which was this game that kind of outlines a person dealing with depression, realizing they have depression, getting help, starting that cycle, getting on medication, whatever it is that they need, and then, kind of getting better. And it was playing that game that I realized I had depression. And it was one of those things where I was just like, what? Like, I didn't comprehend. People don't know what depression is still to this day, really. And like, the fact that playing a video game got me to realize I have it, and it was something I needed to deal with, it kind of opened my eyes to the power of the industry, the power of what these games can do when they put you in the shoes of another person and let you kind of experience that, And I think that was when it was like, and funny enough, it was made by this person that at the time, at least, I don't know what's going on in their life now, but went by Zoe Quinn. And if you know that name, she was kind of at the center of the whole Gamergate situation. And that was a terrible, horrible thing that exploded. And while the rest of the internet was like tearing each other the threads, or shreds, threads. Not. I was like, that was wrong word. Tearing each other to shreds over, misogyny, basically. I was sitting here going, this person changed my life through their video game. Why are we tearing this person apart, And realizing just how toxic everyone was. So it wasn't like a moment where I was just sitting there and like, man, I'm so happy that like, it was this moment of like truly a pit for the industry, for me, that made me realize like, what am I doing? Like what are we doing here? And that kind of reframed my whole thing. Yeah.
You have played a lot of video games.
Yeah.
And we're going to hear so many titles where I'm just like, I have no idea what that is. Because I have not played a lot of video games. But what is the first video game that you remember seeing that sticks out among all of these video games that we've played, or that you've played, sorry?
Yeah, it's really hard. And in that questionnaire that you sent out, I prefaced this thing that I was going to talk about on the podcast, but with my dad, because it's very hard for me to pick a game that I remember as the first that I saw played because of this situation with my dad, which we can get into. But the one that I will say, just to get the answer, and so we don't end up on 10 different avenues as I've been doing so far.
No, it's great though. Go down the avenues.
We love it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You be you.
It's funny because it's a little bit of a simple, like easy, kind of cheesy answer almost in a way, but it's Super Mario Bros. I think it was one of those things, and it's because my dad loved that game. He tells a story about how he and his brother, when it came out, stayed up, all night to beat it the first time. And so I think it was one of those things where once I was finally conscious enough, to understand it, that's one of the first things that he sat down in front of me to be like, no, check this out, look at this thing. And so that's why, yeah, like that would be probably one of the first. There's some game that like caught my eye before that, I'm sure, or saw a commercial of Sonic or whatever it is, but that is the game that like sticks out as like my introduction to the games industry. And yeah, Super Mario Bros. It's a simple answer. Like, I'm sure it's a lot of people's answer, but it was nuts to see the little plumber, getting up and jumping on weird little milk duds and a cute little plant shooting. It was truly unlike, just like everyone else. It's unlike anything I'd seen, and it was I don't know what compelled me to like really want to look into it or see it, but that was probably the first thing that really sticks to my head. Yeah.
I have a very similar flow through video games with that. Like, I can't actually pinpoint what the first video game I saw was because they probably were all around me. But I have a very like specific memory that I decided that I'm going to choose that as my first one. And it's this memory where I'm in my brother's room and I am so short that I am not even tall enough to get onto the bed. So I have to be lifted up onto the bed, and I'm just sitting there watching them play the Atari 2600. And I know that at the time we had a ton of them because it was from my uncle. He had like an endless amount of them because this is after the Atari crash. So like these games were just being handed out basically. So what I say I remember first is Pac-Man. But the interesting thing about it is that Atari 2600 Pac-Man is like terrible. It doesn't look anything like the actual game. The dots are not even square, or they're not even circles. That's what I meant to say. But I even remember like thinking this doesn't look like Pac-Man, so there had to have been something before that. But then I don't really think it's a cheesy answer to say Super Mario Brothers too, because for me, that was the first game that I felt like really clicked for me, or like the first video game that I played, and I'm just like, there's something about this mustachio man that is now going to be me moving forward. Like, I love this. And I think it's such a testament to how good that game is and how good it's at teaching you how to play video games. And it's just pretty much universal because it is good at doing that. And I think that's why I don't feel like it's cheesy, because it's just like, it's so good at what it does to teach the concept of video games, to teach the concept that you need to avoid those milk duds, to explore the blocks that are above you from the one ability that you have, which is the jump. And then you figure out, oh, if I hold down this button, I can continue to run and run faster. And that makes me jump higher. Or I pick up a flower and now I can throw fireballs with my hands. And all of those things are awesome. And then the little exploration things of like going down through a pipe, you get all of these dopamine hits from like the little exploration things or the experimentation things that you do within the game. And that's what a video game should do. Is it should reward your experimentation, and it's just such a good first game.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. It really is like, it's the distillation of so many things that like now we take for granted, right? You know, like I think I've seen probably like, imagine a world where video games were made like they are now, where you play Mario for the first time and then you like take one step and it goes boop, press right to go right. You know, okay, and you start going and press A to jump. Okay, you know, like the fact that we were just kind of left to our own devices. You know, tutorials are good. I like tutorial. I like being able to learn how to play a game and be told the things that are in the game in the first place. But you know, I think back in that era, it was the Wild West of video games, and like, you know, even just playing them was the wild. Like, there's so many games that, you know, I look back at and realize like years later, like, oh, I never played that because it seems so unapproachable. But now that I can watch a video that kind of explains like the core mechanics, or you know, which is an issue, like that I need a video to teach me how to play the game. But you know, like, there are so many cool ideas and things out there. Like, one of the games I just reviewed this year that really opened a lot of doors for us was I keep forgetting. I think it's Live Alive. It's a Square Enix RPG, and it was from the SNES era, Japan only, and they remade it. And I was playing through that game, and it's, you know, all the core ideas, all the writing, all the, like, a bunch of the stuff is from the SNES era, but it still feels like one of the most unique and interesting and like inventive games that I played in years. And it's just like, because it was so unavailable to me, because it was literally in Japan only, it was on the SNES, it was this, it was that, like, it's amazing to me how inventive and cool, and like you can see the like seeds of so many things in games like Mario, like Live Alive, like all these other games. Like, it's an amazing era of gaming to go back to now and again.
What was the game that made video games click for you? I know Matt was saying that for him it was Super Mario Bros. When you played Super Mario Bros. Eventually, did it fulfill that role for you, or was it a different game?
I think so. I played. You know, I definitely was in. I was into the industry. I like played Mario. I in the questionnaire I mentioned I played like a lot of those like Disney platformers like Lion King and Aladdin. You know, I was like, oh, I know that thing. I'm gonna play the game of it now. You know, but I think the game that really like made the whole like industry, like how I comprehend games now and at what I appreciate of games the most, the games that really made it click are Final Fantasy 7 and 8. They're two of my favorites. Final Fantasy 8 is my favorite game, probably, period. But watching, again, similar story, watching my brother, I would sit on the floor and he'd have his TV right here, and I'd just watch him play Final Fantasy 7, and just watching like scenes play out. You know what I mean? With dialogue, and he was doing the voices, and and seeing like these like great cutscenes, and then in Final Fantasy VIII, seeing the same thing where incredible CG cutscenes would be playing, and he was still controlling Squall, the main character, like running around, running away from this giant like crab robot monster. I was like, what is like, what is? Wait, whoa, something's changed. Like I was like, hold on, this is a whole new thing. It felt like an evolution of what I had known video games to be. That's kind of like, it feels like the passing of the threshold of, it's not just points and lives and things like that. This is now you're telling stories with like deep characters and like cinematic design, and it really kind of opened my like brain to like the possibility of what this industry could do. And yeah, like Final Fantasy 7 and 8. I don't know. Oh, yeah, you guys aren't on Twitter. I posted this. Rinks for my birthday made these little plastic. Probably can't see it. Plastic standees. This is me as Squall,
That's
the main
so
character of Final Fantasy 8.
cool.
So like
That
that
is
just
beautiful.
shows you just how deep my love for that game goes. I have one of Phyllis as a character and Fern's a character too. Yeah, it those kinds of games are what kind of opened my eyes and got me to like, wait, there's even more potential here. Because up to that point, it felt like, oh, it's lives, it's points, it's high scores, it's. But something like Final Fantasy VII, even there were games, there were games like Chrono Trigger and stuff like that opened the door for me to go back and like realize these things. Because, yeah, that really showed me like, whoa, there's a lot more happening here than I think I probably realized at first, and got me to open the vaults and go diving in and seeing what else was out there. Yeah.
It's really interesting how the concept of like playing video games from movies that you saw as a kid, like Aladdin, Lion King, Toy Story, those kind of games where the they're very difficult for the time. It was to like combat the rental market. These were games that were hot on the shelf, and you're like, I know this thing, and you pick it up and you play it, and you're like, damn, this is hard, but I'm getting beautiful animations, or this looks exactly like the movie in the case of Toy Story. And then, but you kind of come out of that when you're a little younger, being like, video games are hard. This is a difficult thing to get through. And I know the stories of these games, but it's not exactly like the movie. So you don't really have the idea that video games could be like a movie. And your introduction to stories is perfect. Is Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 8. Like, yeah. I didn't play Final Fantasy 7 at the time. I grew up in a household where my brother was a jock, so he played games like Madden, or the really good one that sticks out to me is Tecmo Super Bowl. Really good game. Won't linger on that one too long, but it's good. But we where was I going?
Brother, jock.
Yeah. Okay. So you coming to okay, yeah. I'm gonna take a drink and then I'm gonna.
You're good, yeah. I'll take a drink too. Let's all hydrate together. Although mine's coffee, which is not exactly hydration, but.
And game on. Okay. So, not being able to like see stories from games that are like sports games and whatnot, I didn't really get that opportunity to see that you could have storytelling in games. And it kind of was Pokemon that showed me that there's somewhat of this story. It's connected through the anime, but I don't like to read at the age that I'm playing it, so that doesn't really click for me. But then when I saw... So I didn't see Final Fantasy 7. I saw Final Fantasy 9 from a friend at a friend's house. and I saw Zidane, the main character, this little blonde boy monkey with 2 swords, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want to know more about this series. And when when Kingdom Hearts came out, I was like, yes, more Final Fantasy characters. This Cloud character in the game looks amazing. And I was so in love with the way that Cloud looked and the mystique behind Cloud that when Final Fantasy Advent Children came out, I bought it day one because I wanted to be able to watch a movie with Cloud in it. So, like, these worlds and stories that are told in it, when I went to it as an adult, I was just like, holy crap, why did I not play this game sooner? Because it is just such a good story. And honestly, Final Fantasy VII still holds up to me is the best one. So the thing I want to move into here is I also got 8 when the remaster came out because I was waiting for them to finally put it out on like a modern system.
Yeah.
In Final Fantasy VIII, I was like, this story is great. I'm loving everything that's happening. But the thing that disconnected with me, and I want to know what your feeling is, it has the strangest combat system of the turn-based ones because of the way it handles magic.
Yeah.
From playing those 2 games, is it the story? Is it the combat? And how do you feel about the combat of 8 versus 7?
Growing up, growing up, the minute I was like 8 is my one, I immediately became aware that a lot of people did not like 8. And I was very like, wait, what? This is so cool. He's got a gun that has a sword attached to it, and when
Amazing.
he stabs people, he shoots and it vibrates, and I was like, oh my god, and it is really interesting to think back. So, what you were alluding to is there's a whole system of like, you have to draw magic out of monsters, and you have to draw it out of different points in the world, and like depending on how much of a magic you had, that could power up certain abilities, and all, a lot of stuff going on there. I have no idea how my brain comprehended that as a child. I don't know if my brother had like so the thing, like, okay, we definitely had messed around with emulation in our household. So I don't know if he had like cheats enabled or something. I don't know how I got through that game when I was a kid. But even playing the remaster, I was like, this game is so complicated. To get the best route, you have to play hours and hours and hours of Triple Triad, the card game that's in that game. You have to you have to get all the cards, you have to pull all the magic, you have to very specifically pull things out of certain monsters, and if you don't, you miss out on that whole route. Sorry. It's such a complicated and convoluted game, and that goes on to the story too. It's a story with weird time stuff that happens. There's memory loss. It's so confusing, but I think it's just at its core, even more than I feel like 7, it is this group of people coming together and finding family. And you, again, without saying anything, there's reasons why they feel like a family more than you think. And I think it really, the heart of it was a romance too. I was a hopeless romantic growing up. And so Cloud being the one, even though Squall is also a character that's just literally, I got a shirt for my birthday that's just a beautiful anime portrait of Squall with twinkly eyes and roses on the sides, but then at the bottom it just says whatever, because that was that's what he said all the time. And Cloud was a similar, I'm focused on, oh, my brain's broken and I want to be Sephiroth, and but Final Fantasy VIII was at its core a love story, and I think that's what pulled me in. But yeah, it is a really weird, complicated, confusing, just strange game. But for whatever reason, it's got to be, at this point, it feels like home every time I play it again. Like I hear those sound. I mean, it's got the best soundtrack. I'll fight. I'll actually fight about that. But I hear those songs. I see those characters again. I remember the exact dialogue lines. It's like someone going back to their favorite movie. Like it really is like, I go back and it's just like, oh, here he comes. He's gonna come in. Oh, Selfie's going off about trains again. Like it feels like coming back to old friends every time I go back and play the game. It's a game that I used to try to play a little bit of every year, and like go back to and like just sit in it and enjoy it again. And so I can say like Final Fantasy VII is probably a better game, but Final Fantasy VIII is my game. And that's that's what makes it different for me. I used to wear Squall's necklace for like a lot of my life. Like
It's a good necklace.
It's a good necklace, and yeah, I don't. Maybe it was me not realizing, I was bi at the time and loving his, his look and falling in love with him. And Renoa.
How could you not?
And, like, honestly, that whole cast is pretty hot. I mean, come on.
I think they played that up even more in that game, coming off of 7, and the idea of so many options in that. But Squall with the scar, like he's a bad boy, but he's really handsome. And there's that legendary meme of him at the dance.
You're the hottest guy here.
Yeah, and then it's just like broken pixels of a face. But we saw the portrait. The portrait's great.
It really, when you think about it, I think you're right. They really leaned into it because even the summons, like famously, were like way sexualized. So, like,
oh yeah.
Here, I'll show the other one now. Fern decided to be Shiva from Final Fantasy VIII, and at the time, when picking a character was like, I kind of want to be Shiva, but Shiva's kind of naked, and Winx was like, oh, I'll draw clothes on you, don't worry. And so and there's Siren, who's very famously very naked. If you look up her design. So they really did lean into that, didn't they? They were like, let's just make everyone hot in this one.
Yeah. The other thing about 8 too, like I do completely agree. The characters are awesome. The story's really cool. When I was playing through the remaster though, and I was loving the story, but at a certain point the combat system got so in the way for me, I was turning on the mode where you could and then I was loving the story, but then I was just like, but now the challenge isn't there. I'm going to put this down, and I'm going to come back to the story when I am willing to put into the time to learn this system and really appreciate what's here instead of just getting through the story to get through it, the critical path, because it seems like a world that I need to give it more time because I love the characters. When I saw Squall for the first time in Kingdom Hearts, Leon, it's Leon now. I don't know why they did that, but
just a cutaway. That is honestly, so I was like, why is he Leon? And if you go and read his little Jiminy journal page, it says like he changed his name to Leon because he wanted to distance himself from the man who couldn't save his world from the Heartless or something. And that broke my heart. Wow. I was like, they're all dead? Everyone else? I was like, sorry, that broke my heart.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I never read those, and now I want to.
I know, especially for like some of those characters, like they kind of explain how they got to this world, and you're like, oh. Yeah, anyways.
We are doing a Kingdom Hearts marathon right now, and we're in the middle of Birth by Sleep. And yesterday, Alicia was talking about how great the stories are, and I was like, I can't wait for you to finish because you really get into lore. And the really good thing about this game is we've never read any of the Ansem reports, which are these very detailed lore dumps that exist across all of the games that we have not touched at all. So that's going to be a treat getting to the end of that and then being able to read even more deeply into the lore. But there's one thing that we've glossed over that you mentioned at the beginning. So you have this thing with your dad in video games. So I'm very, very curious. What is this thing?
So, yeah, so it has roots in a lot of who I am now, but the main thing at the very beginning, famous. I'll kind of tell it the way I famously did in, I think it was like kindergarten. They got all the kids together and they said, what does your dad do? What do your parents do for a living? And I went up there and I said, my dad's a hacker. And
Oh
they
no.
kind of just, everyone just kind of laughed. And then I was held back that day for some reason. I don't know what was going on. And my teacher got my dad and said, your son said you're a hacker? What's that about? Uh, so that was my interpretation of the fact that my dad, from an early age, was really into piracy. So, pirating movies, pirating games, pirating all kinds of stuff. So I was like, he's a hacker. That's normal. That's cool. But very much, I don't know how he explained it away. But so that is why I say it's hard for me to pick out a game as the first that I played, the first that I saw, because my dad was legitimately sitting me in front of everything possible. And he was a little bit of a collector, so he would download a bunch of things. And that included, like, I still have memories of games that I still can't find, like, that were arcade games that I was able to play on my computer, and all these other things that, like, truly, like, blew my mind. Like, oh my god, like, what is that game? It still sticks to me. I finally found, like, Super Burger Time, which was one of the ones that, like, caught my eye for so long. Uh, but that's why. And so another part of that was we had a modded PS2, we had emulators on all the PCs. My dad would go to the nth degree with this. He would download the game, burn it onto a disc, print out the box art, put it into the jewel case, and so we had like entire cabinets full of all these games with the box art, like it's like as if we had it. And the biggest thing though was he liked games. He would play, but he didn't like he knew that I would be into it, and so he said, "Hey, I downloaded these like 50 games. They're burned. Let's play them. Let's test them. I need to make sure that these work." And so I would sit there and be playing all these games to test them out, dabbling in so many different things. 1 second playing a Japanese only game that I can't really comprehend about a mosquito invading this like family and like
Mr. Mosquito.
and it was hypersexual. To playing like a cricket game, and trying to understand. I don't know how cricket works, and then going and playing, the latest God of War. Like it would be literally everything. But it was this thing where me and my dad would sit together and just experience all these weird games, and in a way, this is what made me interested in like playing games for people and streaming, because it was me sitting with my dad playing a game, both of us going like, what was that, like commenting on the weird stuff that was happening, sharing these moments together, and that would keep growing to where family members would come over, and next thing you know, like still in my head as one of the reasons I probably want to be like streaming a lot, playing Kingdom Hearts 2 at launch on a projector that my dad was super into tech, so that was the other thing. We had every console at launch because like PS2 was a DVD player, and again, my dad was into piracy, so we had a lot of DVDs to be playing, and so we put it in the PS2. PS3 was a Blu-ray player, same thing, like so we had it. Even if I was almost wanting it less than my dad. Like my dad would be trying to get these consoles immediately. But yeah, famous memory. It was a family party, dark room because we have the projector. People coming in and out as I'm just playing Kingdom Hearts 2 for this entire room of people. and we're going through like and the reason everyone's hopping in is because they're like, is that Donald? What the hell? And then they walk in, and then they're like, what? You're going to Tron now? Like, what is happening? And and us just all sharing, like, laughing, giggling at things that were happening, and what was probably the most exciting for me was like having intense boss fights where I finally get through it at the end, and it does the slow mo and the lights, and everyone's like, yeah, like you did it, and it's just this room with all my loved ones just watching me play this game and being excited in the same way that I would be alone, and like again, so my dad's at the core of my gaming love, my every like getting me to like again, it's not the best that we had to pirate a lot of it, but I have such an extensive knowledge of games just because of that weird thing that I did where I would just be playing games to test them out, and a lot of those are obviously gone now and lost to time, but yeah, like I just distinctly remember pulling out open that cabinet full of the jewel cases with the box art with the names on the spine, and playing all these games, with my dad, and yeah, calling him a hacker in elementary school.
It's kind of a beautiful superhero origin story for being a streamer, for being a video game writer, and just an encyclopedia of video games. Like, and it's awesome how that kind of looks like it launched you liking to test out different indie games. So with all of those games that you have played throughout time, other than Mr. Mosquito, which you pointed out, from the PS2 era, could you pick out one that you think is the most bizarre game that you've played?
Bizarre. I mean, yeah, Mr. Mosquito is up there.
I would say, for sure.
It's really hard. This one's not really bizarre for like the content, but just thinking through like the quality of it and all this other stuff. Let me really quickly look up the name because it's a game that I really liked. But yeah, this is it. It was called Shadow of Rome, and it was a game. It was an action RPG set in the Roman Empire, made by Capcom. So it was made by Japanese developers making this Roman action RPG, and it was just like this like self-driven, like you're living your just Roman life. You have to go in the Colosseum. Like it was just like such a strange like, but then like again, just knowing it was made by like Japanese developers, Roman, like it was cinematic. It was just and again the quality of it, and like, no one talks about it now. Like no one knows about the PS2 era is like chock full of games just like that, where like there's so many interesting and inventive like concepts and ideas that like no one even touches nowadays and no one even thinks of nowadays.
I do remember seeing that game, and I specifically remember seeing that game at a friend's house, and this was after the popularity of 300, and I think that was one of the things that probably inspired like, oh, this made a lot of money in the box office. This is probably going to make a lot of money too if people really like this Roman idea.
Lost time. It kind of reminds me of oh sorry.
Oh no, you go. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like Yakuza, but it was Roman, and like it was like like it's like going through your life. Like I remember you used to like go to the market and you have to, you know what I mean? Like it was just like one of those strange. I was always pulled towards those kinds of games where any game where you weren't just killing people or you weren't just like fighting, like anytime you had to like go and do something else. I remember another series from the PS2 era, Way of the Samurai, was one that did something similar where you just kind of wandered around and like talked to people. How are you doing today? And like help them like, oh, my my daughter is over there and I can't step away from this because it's like, can you, and then like just any game that really had you doing something way different than any other game was doing at that time really called to me. And so like those games are the ones that stick out. They're not like the weirdest ones. You know, Mr. Mosquito stands out for that reason, and Katamari is another weird series that, you know, is easy to stand out for your drunk dad breaking the cosmos and you have to clean it up with your sticky ball. Like, what?
I really need to show that game to
I
you.
would love to see
We-
this game.
We do have it, and we can stream that.
What?
That game is such a gem of that era.
The music is so good.
Oh yeah, oh, it's beautiful.
They just re-released. They have like one game that like captures all the best of the entire series, and they re-released that like 3 times now. I think they just re-released it on Switch recently. I think it was Switch. Yeah, we love Katamari. It's a time. Your dad wears like really tight clothes and he flexes a lot. You're like a tiny little dude wearing green.
You
Just like
describe.
Blink.
Oh yeah. You described this beautiful memory of playing Kingdom Hearts 2 and basically streaming for your family.
Yeah.
So, when did you start streaming online?
So that's the other funny thing with me, right? I have been doing some kind of online video for a long time, actually. There's really recently I pulled out this video of me playing. I didn't even know this until recently. Me playing this game called Untitled Story, which is a story of a little egg, and you play as a little egg, and you're just platforming around. I found out like just this year or last year, that's made by the same person that made Celeste. That was one of their first games.
That's
So
awesome.
I was on it before anybody, you know what I mean? But I have a video of me where I was on YouTube, and yeah, it's like the game is stuck in the upper left corner because I was using some software back then, didn't know how it worked. You know, like you could see my FPS counter because I used this software called Fraps, which was used a lot back then for people. You know, it's so poorly made. My microphone sounds like you know, like. But I've been doing this for I've just been fascinated by the minute I saw people doing this online, right? The minute I saw like Red versus Blue and like Machinima stuff, I was all about G4. You know, I watched G4 all the time. There was a show that I still like think people forgot about. It's another one of those things. It's called Portal, and the whole thing of the show was they were using MMOs a lot primarily to do little like skits, and there was this guy stuck in a spaceship, and he was talking to the AI, and they were like talking to the characters in the games, and you know they would do like movies. Like the minute I saw all of this stuff, I was like, I want to do that. And so as I was actually saying before we went live to Alicia, like I'm the kind of person where the minute I go, I want to do this. How do I do this? I just go down a rabbit hole, and I, you know, find people talking about, you know, how do they record, how they do this, how they do that. And even though my computer couldn't handle it, you know, I was downloading Fraps. I was downloading whatever I needed to try to XSplit was it's still used today, but it was the OBS of the of yesteryear. And yeah, I used to stream through this site called like livestream.net or .com or whatever it was. I streamed to Justin.tv, not Twitch.tv. You know, I dabbled, and you know, I have videos on my YouTube that have tens of thousands of views of Octodad, the first Octodad. The Harry Potter game demo that had just come out, and I was like, I'm just gonna play this, and like no one else was doing that at that time, so it got like 10,000 plus views pretty quickly. You know, playing like weird indies back then when I was like 13, and it's one of those things that I look back at and go, man, if I really actually tried and really dedicated and you know pushed, I probably could have been like big-ish. You know what I mean? Like I was doing it when there was not a lot of people doing it. Now it's, you know, every console comes built in with streaming and video capture, and you know, like it is such a hard thing to push through now. but it's one of those things that I always look back at with a little bit of like, damn it, like even I hate crypto, but it's like I think back to I knew people that were in on Bitcoin in the beginning, and it's just like if I just bought one and then sold it, I would be fine. Uh, it's really interesting. But if we really wanted to like choose like a when I started streaming now, this version, this iteration, it was probably around the same time BGG kind of came to life. It was part of the strategy. I would stream one-off things every once in a while when my friends would be like, "This is a Nate game. We're not gonna play it. We want to see it though. Stream it for us." And I was like, "Okay." I would do that on and off over the years, um, but it wasn't until like about 2020 when I started BGG. I think the first stream we did. For seeing if this is something we're going to do and like testing things out was actually me and Fern playing Valheim together on Valentine's Day. So that was like the beginning of this iteration. I famously for a long time never did like camera until I just realized people just gravitate when they can see you. And yeah, like the rest is a little bit of history. I had like to show how much like I had like a head start on like some things. When I finally started trying to stream, I like hit affiliate within like a couple days because I already had like 60 followers from just on and off streaming over the years. So like I already had that number, and then I just needed a couple more or whatever. I don't even remember what the thing was, but so it was pretty like like I just on and off had been doing this for so long, and just finally decided to do it a little more regularly. I still don't really stream like every day, every week. Like I still don't really fit to a schedule for a lot of reasons, including running a site is a lot of work to do.
Right.
But yeah, short answer, 3 years. Long answer, been doing it for a long time. Never really went too deep anytime I tried in the past though. There was one other time where me and a few friends all tried streaming, trying to like feed into each other kind of thing. Didn't pan out. And we all drifted away. Yeah.
I have a very similar origin with that, with seeing like Red versus Blue and whatnot. And I got to the point with Red versus Blue, the furthest that I pushed into trying to actually do it was I wrote a script for this whole like Red versus Blue story that I was going to write with my own characters, but it was going to incorporate into the actual story. And in my head, I'm like, this is how I'm going to become a part of Rooster Teeth. And
they're going to see it.
Yeah, they're going to see it. They'll be like, wow, that was so much better than every other fan Red versus Blue thing. This is the guy we want. But I always had the thing where I wanted to do it, but I was always waiting. Like, well, my computer's not good enough, or my computer's sitting in the public space of my house, so I can't record things on there. I always had this excuse that would hold me back, and that kind of thing is why I feel really admiring what you said, because it's just like, I wish I did that. That's so great that you were just like, yeah, I want to do that. And you just dive into it. You research all the stuff, and then it just becomes a thing that you do.
I'll say I definitely did the same thing. I definitely had a lot of excuses as to why I didn't want, to have to try to explain it to my parents. So like I just kind of try to do it whenever they weren't around, and like record, okay, they're not home yet, I can play a game, and it's like I'm like trying to do something shameful, like, oh, hurry, I gotta record a gameplay video, like, son, what are you doing in there? Nothing. Guys, like, comment, subscribe, like, so I definitely did that, and that's why, part of why I didn't end up, diving deeper into any aspect of it, but I'd always, wanted to try to do something with this. Um, and yeah, it was perfect timing, having the support. Like I, I'll probably get there eventually, but I just before I somehow make it not happen, I have to give all the love, all the support, and all the thank you to Fern, to Julie, because like having that push, having that no, you should do this, and is why VGG is still around. There's been so many times where I'm like, I'm just gonna delete the site. No one cares, and why I still stream, even if it's erratic, our schedule, like it's because of, just yesterday we streamed our series, and it was both of us on camera, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if not for Fern, if not for Julie. So want to make sure I say that now in case somehow I forget it when we're talking about other stuff. But yeah, like that's the real reason at the end of the day that like I am doing it now, because I have the support of someone. I'm sure you two can relate to that.
Definitely.
Completely.
Yeah.
And actually, just like I mentioned, not having the motivation and waiting, creating excuses. And Alicia is really the person that makes me do this. I have a lot of ideas and desires of what I want to do, but Alicia makes those things happen. So it's such a good support system because otherwise I would probably just stare at the wall. And now we have a cat, so I could stare at the cat instead. That's more fun.
It genuinely, like, so one of the things I put in the questionnaire, and I don't want to step on that, you're bringing it up eventually, but like similar thing, I always wanted to do a 24-hour stream. I just wanted to see if I could, and so we decided in that first year where we were streaming and BGG was a thing, we're like, we're gonna make it an event and turn it into this thing. And I had ideas and I had concepts, but it was Fern who steps up and like, okay, here's our guest list, here's our event, like here's da da da, like each segment, here's what we're gonna do. Well, I'm gonna make goodie bags that we send out to all our guests, and to have them be excited, and also with like concepts of like, last year, each year we've done it, Fern has like made something for all our guests. The first year was a where's mine? Oh, what is it not on the desk right now? Is a little coaster that they made out of what's the? Of course, I can't think of it now. It was some kind of needle and thread, but not sewing and not it's a thing. And made things like this, conveniently just appeared, which is a little like virtual campfire with like moss and stuff, and like a little candle that you can turn on.
That is
And
beautiful.
That's so beautiful.
for last year's camp out, we call them camp outs, by the way. For last year's camp out, made like crowns for people because we were gonna have like a competition, and so you could put it on if you were the winner, and if you didn't, you couldn't put it on, and like it's things I would never do on my own, and it would just have been me sitting there playing games for 24 hours, but instead now it's this whole thing, and it's because of this, my partner, who's truly like my partner in every way possible. VGG would not exist without Twitch, the streaming platform, without with all of Twitch would not exist. No, the Naetoid channel would not exist without. So truly making dreams reality.
Have you and Fern always had this connection of video games and streaming, or was Fern not super familiar with it until they met you?
So that's why it feels like you gravitate towards people who have somehow we're finding out all these little things about it. It's a similar kind of story, I think. I think Fern had always been around video games, had siblings that played video games, but it was never really that into them. And it was, our connection. That's a whole other story of how we started dating, and it's cute and all this other stuff. I think I early on had told when we first were like connecting through the stream. Long story short, we both had Tumblrs. We had URLs that were basically identical. Uh, Julie's cousin goes to my blog on accident. I go, what the hell? Who's this? See that there's another blog with my name, basically. Go, who the hell stole my name? Click and go, oh, pretty person, wow, and start talking to them. And next thing you know, I live in Oregon. So
Wow.
that's the short version. But yeah, we long distance. And yeah, I was obviously all in on video games, and over the years, I think we joked that during this not E3 that coverage that we did over on my channel in June, we joked that like we all realized like, oh, I think you've graduated. I think you're officially like you are like sitting here like hitting us with all the like the mentions and developers and all that like, oh it just happened. It happened overnight, or like we don't know when it happened, but you graduated. So yeah, a similar story where I think that's kind of like the story of Ultramillion, right? Where Alicia has not the extensive knowledge and passion, and is going through the games now, finding that new passion and love. Similar story, and a lot of that same kind of like talking through, going through old games, going through classics, and doing it together and playing things. It's a thing that we've cultivated together in our relationship, and it's like now obviously another key piece of our relationship as again a partner in all that I do for video games online. So.
Yeah, I mean, I love hearing about that because it is so familiar. It's incredible. Matt, the first video game that he introduced me to was Kingdom Hearts 1, and I got stuck on the Riku fight for about 6 months and put it down, played Breath of the Wild, which really taught me more about video games, and then went back to Kingdom Hearts and beasted Riku, finished the game. It was absolutely amazing. Is there a video game that you remember introducing Fern to where they were like, this is amazing, it's clicking for me, I love this?
I have two good ones here, because I remember early on, like I don't. It's just you just know you like I have this belief that everyone has. Even people that go like, I don't really like video. I'm like, there's a game out there that you would love. We just need to find it. And like I have this like strong belief that there's something out there for everyone. And so sometimes I'll talk to people and like describe a game. They go like, oh my god, that sounds fascinating. And I'm like, exactly. And it's not like Mario. You're not jumping around and platforming. Like because I think that's a lot of people have like a preconceived notion of what games are, and like they're like, I don't like that. But again, games have changed so much that like there's so much out there. I think the game that I recall being the one that like it started out where I was really in love with it, and they were kind of watching over my shoulder, and the next thing you know, half of my playtime on my Steam account is from them, and then they also now have like tripled that on their own account, and that's Stardew Valley.
Nice.
Makes sense.
Nice.
Makes sense.
It's a game that I think was like early on in our relationship. It was still like coming, like it was still getting updates. It was still coming out. Like there was no multiplayer at the time, and it was one of those things where again I think it was maybe I can't speak fully for them, but I think it was one of those things where like they kind of were watching from behind and being like, oh, dude, you can just like play a game where you just like meet people and farm and take care of animals. Like what? Like I thought it's this yeah, I see you playing like Metal Gear Solid 4 or 5 or whatever, like you're just like shooting guys and whatever, but like
What opposite experiences?
Right.
yeah. So like I think that was the door opener for sure. I think early on there were some narrative games I think we played together too, like, and then this is the other one that I love this story because I get to toot my own horn. I love, I'm a streamer. I love to, help myself out. It was this game called Her Story, which is from this developer Sam Barlow, and actually, funny enough, Fish, who I brought up a few times, another a childhood friend of mine, been gaming our whole lives. Another reason I stream, probably like us sitting together on the couch, like playing a game, and making fun of it or whatever it is. Uh, Fish was visiting. It was early on. It was like in the first year that I was living in Oregon, and I was like, so I've been hearing about this game called Her Story. Like, it sounds really cool. Like, we should check it out. And both of them were like, I don't know. Sounds kind of weird. I don't know. It's just like, can we watch a movie or something? I'm like, look, I'm just gonna. We can't pick. We don't know how to like. We can't pick something that we want to do today. So I was like, let's just put it on. And I start playing it. And basically, it's a game where you're investigating. Um, by going through video clips, and you put in words, one word at a time, and it pulls all the clips that word is spoken in that clip. And so, like, you look up the, and there's like a million clips that say the, and you click on it, you watch it, and you hear them mention a name, and so you go, oh, okay, Sam, and you go put in Sam, and you then find all the clips where Sam is brought up, and then you click and watch those, and you're slowly trying to uncover this mystery. It was like 3 word clicks in where they were like behind me on the couch, to next thing you know, they're next to me at the computer, and we're just sucked into this experience of like uncovering this mystery together. And I think a lot of that kind of game too is what pulled Fern in with me, was like that the showing like things like Life is Strange, and showing games that had more like diverse characters and stories being told. And again, we're not just you know loud gun shoot game. Was a key part of our early going, and sharing like interesting visual novels, even if they were loud and crass, like Danganronpa, if anyone's familiar with that series, uh, kids murdering each other. Um, just again, like opening that door, and showing like there are so many things under this umbrella out there. Yeah, and I think it was a mix of that kind of like again, that narrative, trying to do that same thing that Final Fantasy 7 and 8 did for me. Like, no, there's cool stories being told out here. Come check this out. And us crying in the middle of the night, playing some game together, and Stardew Valley, always, always sucking people in.
I think you two do such a good job of creating this cozy and comforting environment that we talked about earlier during your introduction. And what is the environment that you want to create for your Twitch community?
Yeah, it is. I think cozy, welcoming, approachable is really a lot of the words that for literally all, except for like bigots and terrible people, they can go away. Uh, but I think, I want it to be like those times I, talked about today. I want it to be like you're with me and my family, and we're just sitting in the room, and we're just playing this game and having a goofy time. I guess I don't know if you would call it shameless. I don't know if you'd call it what. But I really just I put my full self out there at all times. Again, growing up as I said, as a hopeless romantic, I wore my heart on my sleeve. I'm just who I am at all times. I'm just like a weird little gremlin boy who's goofy and like just will say whatever comes to my brain. Somehow that's cultivated like a whole thing in our community of like hating worms. We can get into that. Uh, but it's I just genuinely like you hear it all the time, and it sounds cheesy, but like just being authentic, just being myself, just being who I am, and if that means I'm spending hours on something that like stream doesn't necessarily care about, like okay, but I think at the end of the day, I'm hoping that people are there and sticking around because they want to like hang out with me and with the community we've made, and just want to hang out with us and just have a good time. It's one of the reasons I love doing the not E3 things that I know both of you had stopped in on. It's like again, that's recreating that same experience of me and my buddy Fish, and even early on before I was streaming, Fern, like sitting around and watching these press conferences, video presentations, and just being like getting excited together. I think that you really can't capture those moments of like there's a clip out there of me and Fish losing our minds to the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake because the way they made that trailer was so perfectly done. Where like only to the very last second you realize what it is, and both of us, you know, it's real. Like that's to me like those moments that's it all circles back. It's all full circle. Like that's what BGG is all about. Just being excited, being not being afraid to be excited. Again, going back to authenticity, like there's a lot of stuff on the internet right now, people being afraid of like being cringe and cringe culture, and what. And I'm like, I'm just excited. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy who's excited about things, and I don't care if I come off weird. I cultivate a worm hating thing. I don't know. Like I'm just doing my own thing, and just having a good time, and just it's a new thing that Ferd and I say. I'm just being free. I'm just free from all these different things. I don't let it just lift it off of my worry. I already have anxieties about all kinds of things. Like I'm just gonna sit here and I'm just gonna be me. And if you want to hang out and you like me, cool. If not, okay. Like
Yeah.
and funny enough, like we've had different discussions privately and on stream or whatever about like uh, how to stream best, and like how to like gain audience and all that all that stuff. And I think that has negatively impacted my ability to become bigger. These last few this last year or so has been pretty good for the stream, so things are looking up. But I think it all contributes to like I'm cultivating like the right audience. So, like the people that are sticking around are like they like the weirdo, so they're here to watch it. Uh, but yeah, I think that's the core of like the audience I'm trying to build, the community I'm trying to build. Yeah,
Nice.
that was true. Like, that went all over the place.
That was beautiful, though. I love this idea of I'm just going to be free. I I think that's such an amazing mentality, and I'm going to be thinking about that for days, and just things are going to come at me, and I'm like, I'm just going to be free. It's amazing. I love that. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, which is really sad because this has been an amazing conversation and we didn't get to so many things, and there are so many things that I still want to ask you about. So we would love to have you back on. Of course, before we end, do you have anything important coming up on your channel?
Yeah, so we just we have a lot of stuff actually. Fern just restarted the book club series, which is where Fern plays visual novels, and we're playing this really great one called Amaranthus right now. And so that's every Saturday. We're almost done with the first playthrough, but we'll probably do one or two more after that because visual novels are all over the place. So every Saturday we'll be doing that. I will be starting a playthrough of a game called Viewfinder, which is this game truly. I'm afraid to say too much about it, but it's a nutty experience where you take pictures and then like you use that picture, put it in the world, and then that like what you took a picture of is now there. So it's hard to
Whoa.
walk into like so you take a picture of a hallway and then you put it over here, and now you can walk into that hallway, but it's over there now. And yeah, it is a nutty, mind breaking experience. I played the demo and it was wild, and so I'm excited to hop into that because they take that to the next level in the full game. But the thing two things we're probably most excited for. One, we have the really start figuring out is last time we did last December we did a charity event called Double Fine December, where I played through every game from the developers at Double Fine. Not every game actually. We only got through a handful, but we ended with Psychonauts 2, and we committed to, if we hit certain tiers, we would do certain things. We committed to a 12-hour charity event by the end of summer. So we got some planning to do still for coming within the next month or so. And to cap off the discussion, we are going to PAX West. BGG is getting official media badges to go to PAX West and cover the entire event. And so we won't necessarily be streaming while we're there, but we're going to be doing a lot of content on the website and everywhere else. And if you want to check that out, or if you want to support us, because we need a little help to get there, you can go check that out on the website or on our social medias. But yeah, that is a really cool thing that, again, BGG is doing extremely well. We are making connections. I can't believe we've got a media badge to go to an event like that.
That's amazing.
It's so exciting.
Incredibly exciting.
Right.
So that'll be something to keep an eye out for, and we'll probably do a post PAX giant stream where we talk about everything that happened, and maybe show some footage or stuff we've captured and stuff like that. But yeah, that's what we got for book club, viewfinder, charity stream, PAX West.
That's awesome. So many exciting things happening. Before we end, I want to know, what is one thing that you hope people will take away about you from this conversation?
I think if there's one thing, what I'm trying to do with this whole thing, and BPG and all of it, is just like try to be a little more optimistic. Try to just have. I know that the world really sucks, and I have issues where I'm constantly like not having a good time. Not thinking about the future, spiraling out of control, and but like celebrate the moments that make you happy, and blow those up bigger than they need to be, because you don't know when you're going to get that again, and so like have that in like excitement, let that grow, let that happiness grow, like take those little moments that make you happy and make them as big as you can, because I think we focus too much on the negative as a society. When I talk about new games come out, the first thing people talk about is, oh, this glitch, this texture looks bad, so they suck at making games. No, let's just sit and go like, man, that line was really cool. That like I want people to try to like reframe and focus on the good instead of the bad, because I think it's easy to focus on the bad, but at the end of the day, I think if we can try to be a little more recklessly optimistic, I think that's going to be all the better for everything, not just the games industry, but like just your life. And again, be free.
Be free. Is there anywhere other than, we have twitch.tv/Naetoid, which is Naetoid, and also videogamesgood.com, where people can find information on what you're doing?
Yeah. So those are the two main ones. You can find our pretty much the site's socials and my socials via those two links, pretty much. I think we are on YouTube, and we're trying to do more video content with VGG. Luckily, they started up that new like @ thing where you can put an @ because I don't have enough followers to have like youtube.com/videogamesargood. I have to do like, it's just numbers. If you do youtube.com/ and then @videogamesgood, it'll take you to our channel where you can see we have video reviews and all our not E3 coverage uploaded there, and it's half our stream, kind of like our stream dump, and half our original content. Anything you want to do there to support us, we're on Patreon, all that stuff you can find. We have merch. You can find all that stuff on Video Games Good.
Awesome. For us, we have a Kingdom Hearts marathon going on. So we played through Kingdom Hearts 1. We watched the cutscenes for Chain of Memories and 358 over 2 days. We played through Kingdom Hearts 2. We watched the cutscenes for Recoded. And now we're playing Birth by Sleep. We have finished Ventus's story, Terra's story. And by the time this comes out, all of it, I would hope. And then other than that, we're streaming pretty much every day, 8 p.m. Central Time. And then we're doing the podcast weekly now, so 3 p.m. every Sunday, Central Time.
And we are going to have the podcast come out on all of your podcast apps on Tuesdays at 6 a.m. Central Time.
7 a.m.
7 a.m. Central
7 a.m.
Time?
Central Time.
So sorry.
It's 6 a.m. Mountain Time.
Yeah.
6 a.m. Mountain Time.
Sure,
There you go.
6 a.m. Mountain Time. Let's change up the time zone this time.
Right.
And also, if you're looking for us on Apple, you should just go to our Discord, because when you put Playerspectives into the Apple search engine, it thinks you're putting in perspective.
Yes.
And you cannot find it. So go to our Discord. There is a link to follow that on the Apple podcast app. But everywhere else, just search us. We're there.
We're there.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. Twitch.tv/ultramelon with the O, with the 0 instead of the O in melon, which is a whole thing. But
It's a whole thing. Maybe
I'm over
one
it.
day.
I'm okay.
One day.
I'm okay about it. We will
you
cry. We will get it. We
Video-
will. Oh yeah, you go.
Video games good. The reason we are that is because videogamesaregood.com is some weird edutainment, like education and video games for kids. No. Give us video games are good and give them Ultramelon.
We will pry the O from the dead account hands of whoever has it right now. Someday it will be ours.
I believe.
But yeah, twitch.tv/ultramelon with the 0. And the link to our Discord is on there. But other than that,
Well, there's one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
So on July 30th, it's a Sunday, after the podcast, we are actually going to have fellow streamers, a lot of the faces that you've seen on this podcast, all playing Among Us with us.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun.
I'm excited.
I cannot wait. It seems like the perfect way to stream Among Us, because it's a complicated game to stream.
Yes.
But we are going to be doing that around, I think it was, I can't remember what time.
I can't remember. It might have been 7 p.m.
7
Central
p.m.
Time?
Central Time. That's the start time. Yeah. But yeah, check that out. But other than that, eat your vegetables and take your vitamins. Ta-ta for now. For me.
And remember to not compare yourself to strangers on the internet and just be free. This has been Playerspectives. Thank you so much for listening.